Join me today as we talk about the 90s sci-fi movie, Screamers. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobbie, and today we're going to be talking about the 90s sci-fi movie Screamers. Now, this is probably actually a sci-fi horror movie, and I'm probably going to put it into the 90s horror movie playlist because there's definitely some horror and dread in this movie, and like some real, like when you really stop to think about it, kind of horror. Not so much, like, obviously there's the horror of the situation the characters find themselves in, the surface level, but like there's a layer beneath that, and I'm going to talk about it because I actually really like this movie. So as far as stars in the movie, there's Peter Weller and a bunch of other people that I vaguely might recognize from somewhere, like a guy that was on the La Femme Nikita TV series, the one in the 90s on USA, not the later one with, is it Maggie Q? Yeah, anyway. He's like the only other guy in the movie I recognized. So, I suppose I could have looked up the actors, but, you know, this is the Peter Weller show. That's all that matters. Criminally underused actor, by the way. I feel he really should have been in more things. I mean, he's still alive. It could still be in more things. I'm just saying that, like, at his prime, like, you know, he had RoboCop, which was spectacular, and the ill-fated Buckaroo Banzai, which is an entertaining movie. Just, I see why it didn't succeed. You know, even though there's all kinds of people in that movie. We'll talk about that movie sometime. But yeah. And it has a connection to Big Trouble in Little China that we'll talk about too. So anyway, Screamers. Okay, so in the future, we have begun colonizing other planets. And on one of these planets is discovered a material whose name I can't remember, but it starts with a B, that they start mining because it is apparently the solution to the world's energy crisis. However, once they start mining it, they begin to notice that they're beginning to release all kinds of radioactive material along with it. The substance itself isn't radioactive, but apparently it's covered in radioactivity, or something to that effect. So the New Economic Bloc, the NEBs, are the people who control this, and then the miners and whatnot form a different group to rebel against them called the Alliance, and then we have a shooting war out in space. And it's mainly on this one world where they're mining the stuff, which has kept it at like a Cold War level back on Earth. So both sides have bombed the surface to basically dust, and a lot of the civilians were evacuated, and so now it's just fighters on both sides. So the Alliance, in an attempt to tip the scales in their favor, they send their men on this planet a transmission, and it's essentially to tell them to build an underground factory, to set everything up, the programming, and then, as Peter Weller puts it, the last guy flipped the switch and ran like hell. Because what it began to build was a device called a mobile autonomous sword. It's like a little two-legged thing that's got buzzsaw blades on it, and it can zero in on your heartbeat. And because the noise they make, they call them screamers. They burrow underground, and whenever they find people, they kill them. And then they suck their bodies underground because they chop them up and use all the bits and pieces for other things. So you have the horrifying nature of you can't go outside unless you have a device that only the Alliance has, that messes with the projected vibrations from your heart, so you appear to be dead, so the screamers don't attack you. And the planet's highly radioactive, so they have these specialized kind of cigarette things that they smoke that prevent the radioactive crap from getting into your lungs, but who knows what you're actually putting in here. And everyone in the movie smokes regular cigarettes constantly because, they're stuck out in space fighting a pointless war. So, they mainly just hunker down in the bunker. And then everything is broken up whenever a Neb soldier shows up carrying a message for Peter Weller's character. And he gets it, finds out that the Nebs want peace. Then they get a transmission from Earth where the Alliance commander tells them, no, we found this stuff on another planet, no traces of radioactivity, so we're going to start mining there, and we're going to win the war. We got peace negotiations, some BS excuse to not go talk to the Neb commander. Then a ship crashes. A single survivor. It was marked as a civilian transport, but it was full of soldiers and a nuclear reactor, the kind that you need to produce material to make bombs. And it's headed for the other planet that their commander said, that things are going to become peaceful over. And so they get the one soldier inside, like, well, why are you heading here? Like, we just talked to Marshal whoever. And the soldier's like, he's been dead for 2 years, guys. I don't know who you talked to, but it wasn't him. And like, he was executed 2 years ago. We are, in fact, going to war on the other planet now. And that's what all the arms and everything were for. And so that's whenever Peter Weller puts together that they've been lied to because he believes the kid, because the kid doesn't have any reason to lie to him. He's nobody. So he tells his second in command, like, hey, we've been lied to. We've just been left here to die. And he's like, well, if they're going to do that, why wouldn't they, just cut off our food and just let us die or bomb us or something? He's like, no, we got too many people back on Earth that know that we're here. So they couldn't do that because people would know. And like, they can't let us come back to Earth because we know what all's been going on up here, and they can't let us tell our story. So they're just going to wait till we grow old and die. And so they find out. So he decides, hey, so I'm going to talk to the commander of the other side. Like, this is why whoever's sent the hologram didn't want us talking to them, because they've figured it out too. Like, so we're going to go make peace with them, and those assholes can go fight their war on the other planet if they want to. So he leaves, takes the new guy with him. Then they come across a kid. Well, one of the screamers that they killed out front that were attacking the crashed ship and like sucking the bodies down to the ground. He checked the microchip that's in it, the main CPU, and it was different than the primary model. It had been modified. And so he doesn't know what to make of that initially, because it shouldn't be, because it's just a factory pumping them out for all they know. So him and the other guy get going, and they come across this kid. And then, as events unfold, the kid is a robot, is a screamer. And so they have to take the kid out, and then they take its chip. And so then they get to the Neb base, and there's only like 2 or 3 people there. And then they go to the command center, and everyone's dead. They've all been killed. And some screamers walking around inside the base, and take a couple of them out. And Peter Weller's able to like scan the microchips, and he finds the one from the kid is the Mark III. And so he's trying to figure out, okay, well, what the hell's the Mark II? Because they know about the original ones. That's the Mark I. And the kid is the Mark III, and the kid's meant to play on your sympathies. It's a kid holding a teddy bear that's asking to go with you and everything, and then it's going to kill you later. So it knows how to play on human sympathies, right? So it gets going. One of the 2 Neb soldiers is like losing it, and he keeps saying the same thing over and over again, and the other Neb soldier's like, I'm pretty sure he's a robot, because he can't think of anything else to say. He keeps saying the same thing over and over again. And finally he kills him, stabs him to death, and then he pulls his knife out. It's covered in blood. It's like, oh, well, whoops. So they all set off to go back to the Alliance base, because there's no one left on the Neb side. And they can't raise him on the radio, and then they finally get back there, and the guy that he left in command keeps telling him to come in, keeps using the same phrase over and over again. He had left his records, his Don Giovanni recordings, and finally he's like, "Let me talk to Don Giovanni." He goes, "Yeah, this is Don. Like, come on in, Commander." And that's, it tips him off that, like, no, something's way wrong here. So finally the door opens and a bunch of the Mark IIIs, the kids, come out, and he realizes that everyone in the base is dead. So they start shooting him, and eventually they hit a big fuel tank with some kind of missile and take them all out. Then they themselves get blasted back too. And then you see them wake up, and the Nebs had told them that the Mark II is probably the ones that they had come across that were soldiers that pretended to be wounded on the battlefield. They just sit there and help me, and then you get close and they kill you. And they kind of look at the Alliance guys and they're like, "We don't know what the hell you're talking about. We've never seen anything like this." So they get going, and then the one guy that killed the other guy with the knife earlier is on the battle, is there, like, "Yeah, help me." And then the other guy, the newbie, gets close to him, and then he stands up and crushes him to death. He's a machine. He's the Mark II. So then Peter Weller blasts him, and then him and the lady that they picked up at the Neb base are like, "Well, there's nothing left here." And he's like, "Well, we can get off the planet. Like, there's a ship that can take us. The Alliance Command built it just in case anything ever happened. And, well, it's kind of looking like something has." So he's like, "I can get us out of here." So they go and they get to Ed. And they get inside there, and his second in command is there. Well, it turns out he's a damn robot too. So he ends up killing him. And then the woman that he's with, another copy of her shows up. And I think the first one had, like, evolved. It was like, "Yeah, screw this. Like, I'm leaving. I'm going to Earth. Like, I'm cool with people. Like, Peter Weller seems like a cool dude." And so the new one kills the old one, and then Peter Weller kills the new one. Then he's the last guy left standing. So he gets on board the ship and takes off. And you see there's a kid's teddy bear inside. Well, it's a screamer. So, yeah. So you've got different levels to the horror here. You have the whole, like, oh, we're facing these killing machines that are out here. But you also have the slow realization that they're fighting for absolutely nothing. There is no strategic value left to this planet. They have found the material someplace else, and other people are going to fight over it there. There's only a handful of people left alive. One side's been decimated by the machines that the other side built. The side that built the machines doesn't know what the machines are doing. No one's been back inside the factory, so they don't know that they're down there evolving somehow. And when they're finally confronted with this, the evolved units want to kill everybody. So it doesn't matter that the Alliance built them. They still want to kill the Alliance people because they're against all humans. So, and you're stuck with the whole, like, who's real and who's not. And it's horror on several different levels, but again, the main one being that, like, the whole conflict is completely pointless. Like, even if one side does win, no one's coming to rescue anybody, no one's coming to save them, no one's coming to rebuild the planet, no nothing. Like, it is an utterly pointless conflict. And they're all just fighting and killing each other for nothing. And then, of course, again, then the realization that the machines plan on killing all of them. So, yeah, it's a hell of a movie. It has a sequel, and the sequel's okay. But, yeah, this one is the one to watch. So, on the sci-fi scale, I still haven't figured out what exactly I'm going to go for there. But this is definitely this is pretty sci-fi. Because we're talking space travel, AI, machines, holographic transmissions across the galaxy, nuclear fuel things. Like, we're pretty steeped in the sci-fi realm here. As a movie, I think it's probably, for me, it's easily an 8. It's pretty good. I don't think there's any real, like, contradictions anywhere. Pretty tight scripting, and the plot doesn't really slow down anywhere. You know what you need to know, then move on to the next part. Um, just kind of some thoughts on the production. I imagine this had to be a fairly lower budget movie because all they really had to do was film in like some abandoned industrial areas and build a few sets here and there, and then put matte paintings up on top of them. Because you'll see like the Alliance base. It's like a bunker here. That's probably real. And then there's like the ruined city up above it. That's probably just a matte painting. Most of the effects are gunplay and explosions and things like that. There's some sketchy CGI because it was the 90s and weren't anywhere near as good looking as it is now. So yeah, I mean, all in all, even with that, it still looks pretty good. Aside from a few scenes where you're just like, mm. But other than that, it looks pretty good. So it's not gonna pain you to watch it or anything. But yeah, overall, like it's a pretty good. Like I said, I'd give it an 8 probably. It's a pretty good movie. Peter Weller, fantastic as always. You know, so not really much more I can say about that. So let me know down in the comments if you've seen this movie before. If you have, what'd you think about it? If you haven't, are you going to consider watching it? Do you want me to continue doing all these videos about movies from the 90s, mainly sci-fi movies, but we are going to start to branch here shortly. Yeah, so that's about all I got there. So like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It's YouTube. You know how this all works. Sharing and commenting are the two things that really help drive engagement with the channel, which overall helps the channel. So we always appreciate that. But other than that, I will see you folks at the movies.